All right, welcome everyone to today's session, which is hosted by ANZ D365 FinOps team and Dynamics 365 User Group India. We are very excited to have Lane today, especially joining us from Microsoft, who has been driving the unified development and infrastructure merge initiative at Microsoft. So his experience and expertise will be very valuable for us. And also, before we move forward, I want to talk about a few housekeeping rules that the views represented by Lane and by speakers, they are representation of their views, and there might be some roadmap directions, preview discussions happening in today's call. So please do not treat them as official commitment from Microsoft. Do check out public announcements to stay up to date with what's coming ahead. And please be respectful to everyone in this discussion. Help us maintain a positive community culture. If you have a question, you can drop it into the chat window. We can take it towards the end. And also, please be mindful that this session is being recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube channel. So if you do not intend to be a part of a recorded session, then this is a good time to disconnect. A quick introduction to the group and the volunteers. So on the slide, you see all the volunteers who are running ANZ D365 FinOps team and Dynamics 365 UG India. So we have Rachit, myself, based out of Melbourne. Umesh joining us from India. Faisal is based out of Melbourne. He's also Microsoft MVP. Satya is based out of Sydney in Australia. Deepak is based out of UK. And Kamar is based out of Melbourne. Vishal is based out of UK. Amar is based out of Melbourne, and Zishan is a solution architect based out of New Zealand. So as you can see, these groups are driven by a lot of experienced and group of people who are spread across the globe, and that gives us a lot of good strength and driving force to keep doing these sessions. And last but not the least, a big thanks to all the sponsors because of which these sessions come to life. So big thanks to One Dynamics, OJS Business Systems, Aspire Solutions, and Integro. So with that, I will hand it over to Lane. Lane, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for having me on today. From sunny Seattle. Normally I say hello from rainy Seattle, but it is in fact that time of year where the sun does come out in the Pacific Northwest, and everybody who lives over here instantly is in a better mood. We all start to actually smile every now and then. We're not as gloomy. And so hearty good evening from sunny Seattle. I wear many hats at Microsoft. I'm actually on the Power Platform, what we call Managed Security and Governance team. Long story short, my entire team owns all of Power Platform Admin Center, as well as Lifecycle Services Admin Center. So we have to cater to a lot of different audiences, a lot of different customers. We support security and governance features, environment management, licensing, reporting across the stack for Dynamics applications like CRM, of course, all of the ERP portfolio, Power Apps, Power Automate, Copilot Studio, and even some new things that will be announced here at Build in a couple of weeks. So it's kind of an intersection of all of these different needs that customers have. And what I really get a lot of joy out of is hearing all of these differing points of view and differing requirements from our customers and trying to thread that needle across all of those things so that we can ship features that work for everybody and solve multiple needs at once. So within Power Platform, I kind of focus on three main areas. One is connector governance, so being able to turn on and off connectors and MCP servers across all of those different workloads we just talked about. I also own Power Platform API and all of our admin SDKs. So if you're thinking, how do I automate everything about the PPAC or Power Platform Admin Center experience, I'm definitely someone you can talk to and shoot ideas over to. And then, of course, One Dynamics, One Platform, this whole like unification of all Dynamics products into the Power Platform admin experience. which has been, as we say, a journey, certainly for ERP. And before I joined Microsoft, my whole background is in ERP. I've been working with F&O and AX since 2011, and I've been at Microsoft for 8, almost 9 years. So it's been really a wild ride just to see where things have gone, certainly in the age of AI. But today we're going to talk about specifically the One Dynamics, One Platform initiative and just some broad updates. I promise not to spend all of my time in the slides. I have a couple of slides just to kind of refresh where we've been, where things are at now. I've got a couple of demos, a little bit of roadmap, and then we can certainly open it up for questions after that. So I think the first place to start is, what do we mean by unification? What is this whole Dynamics unification thing, right? And so as we look at LCS and, excuse me, where we've been for the last decade or more, is we have a simple admin center. You log in and you can create what's called a project. And within the project, you can create one sandbox and one production environment. Some customers, may not even get to the production environment if the project is too complex or they put it on hold and so on. So we have a very rigid structure around environments, and there's a lot of like earning you have to do to get to the production environment. And when you create one of these environments, you do that through a front end called the LCS admin portal. There's a whole backend AOS that we create with each of those environments, and then there's a database at the end of the day. And that whole architecture has gone through lots of evolution over the years. We used to deploy Windows VMs and Azure SQL databases. We then later migrated the compute side to Azure Service Fabric clusters and kind of getting more elastic scale that way. And then we also implemented elastic pool databases. So we have lots of packing of individual customers into pools, and we can load balance and we can move your database around and you may not even know, and so on. And that's kind of where LCS has lived, I'd say, up until about like 2019, 2020. And then we started to say, okay, there's this thing called Dataverse, and there's this thing called Power Platform. More and more, there's going to be experiences built on Power Platform. It started with, I think, being able to link a Power App. Then we had, of course, we've had dual write for many years, but then we had virtual entities. We've had all of these add-ins and microservices, things that you could deploy on top of FNO. And so increasingly, first order of business is you have to deploy Dataverse and link it to FNO, and then you can turn on all of these new features. We got to a point in, I think, 2024 or late 2025 where every FNO period had to have Dataverse. And so we actually made that mandatory. And so whenever you're spinning up a new sandbox or spinning up a new production environment in LCS, it's no longer optional. You have to have Power Platform, you have to have Dataverse. And that's really important because that eventually will get to migration topic. And that kind of becomes our migration path. It's a one-to-one linkage between an FNO and a Dataverse. But as we moved over to Power Platform and we started thinking, how do we want this to be for a net new customer? Do we want to have an FNO sandbox, and do we want to have an FNO production environment that's different or separate from all of the other types of things that we have in Power Platform? And our gut really told us no. Like, we really think there should just be an overall environment concept in Power Platform. There should just be a thing called production. There could be a thing called sandbox. And in Power Platform, those environments can host multiple different apps. So even within Dynamics, one environment can have field service and it can have sales. Now it can also have finance or supply chain on top of it too. And so that one-to-many model, we really did our best to kind of embed FNO low enough in the stack so that all of the top-level APIs, all of the top-level UI pretty much just snaps into place and doesn't really know that FNO is involved or is anything special. Now, of course, ERP is complex, so there are some special things about it still, but we're trying to smooth those edges over so that anybody who comes to us with Power Platform experience or certainly CRM experience, they're going to be like, oh, I know exactly how to handle FNO. So that's kind of the goal that we had. But I do want to make it clear there is still two databases. There are, the X++ programming language is not going away. So there's still a lot of uniqueness to FNO, and that's I think where it shines. Certainly with all of the MCP goodness these days as well. So the goodness is going to shine. All of the kind of why is it different? We're trying to make some of those things go away and become easier to manage. So that's the long story short. Um, from a migration and roadmap, where have we been perspective, I'm not going to walk through this whole slide. I think we've talked about it publicly a couple of times. Suffice it to say, I'm sure many of you have been on this journey with us the whole way as well. So it's been a wild ride, and there's just been so many features and so many micro decisions that we've had to make over the years. And your feedback along the way has just been so critical, both just directly at conferences, in forums like this, where we can talk just openly amongst each other, as well as on forums like Viva Engage and Yammer and so forth that we've had in the past. So please keep the feedback coming. Please keep the pressure on. Make sure that we're building things correctly, because this has just been an awesome partnership, and the things that are coming out are just way better than we've ever had in LCS. So there's a lot of capability that we've built, and we've gotten to a point where in February of this year, we stopped allowing new customers to go to LCS. We got to a point where we were just confident PPAC is good for the new customers, except for commerce, except for AX 2012 upgrade, except for tenant-to-tenant migration. So if you're in a couple of those edge cases, you can still go to LCS because we don't have features for those yet. But I think commerce is coming very, very soon. All of that to say, all new customers are going to PPAC now for the most part. And we're already seeing just an explosion of usage. We have, I think, 5 or almost 6 times more environments created on average per day in PPAC than we do in LCS. And I think it's probably obvious once you play with it why that is. It's just so much more flexible, so much more easy to use from that perspective. So it's taken a lot to get here. Are we done? No. Next up is migration. So we are starting to build the migration. I have a proof of concept demo that I'd like to show you all today, just to kind of give you a mental, visual idea of what we're thinking. And we're hoping to have it available for preview this summer. So right around the corner, hopefully, another month or two, and we can start to release this for anybody who'd like to try it. And it'll be on a per environment basis. So we'll kind of get to what that looks like. I say all of that to say, though, if you're in LCS today and the idea of migrating and moving over to Power Platform when you haven't been plugged in, the last 5 years, don't panic. This is not the time to panic. We are not going to be kicking people out of LCS anytime soon. We want to make it opt-in for a period of time. So we really want customers who are excited and want to get out of LCS and move over to Power Platform the tool to do so. And then we want to give it, some time, and then we want to turn that into an opt-out model where we're just going to schedule you for migration, but you can always just say, no, thank you. Not today, or not next week. We're not ready. We're gonna, we're in the middle of a busy season, or this is the holidays or something. We're not gonna do it. So you could opt out, and then eventually there will come a time where it won't be possible to opt out of migration. And that whole length of time, we're thinking is going to be at least 12 months. It could be longer. So, okay. So I think that is roadmap stuff. I want to start in an area where I get a lot of questions, frankly, and it's probably one of our most confusing aspects of the platform is our licensing. I think I've seen people build agents, wiki articles, how-tos. It's so hard to understand licensing these days, and uh, there's a lot of reasons for that. We have so many different needs and so many different complexities, but I do want to talk about licensing a little bit. So I'm going to break into jail, as my manager says, and talk about it. So how is our licensing kind of laid out? The first thing is you get a license through an offer. And that offer can just be direct. It can be things like you can just go to the Microsoft Admin Center today and go buy Office 365, right? It can just be direct. You put in your credit card and you can buy a license. There's, of course, volume licensing as well, where you get that through a CSP or a reseller. There's education discounts. There's certainly government offers as well. And then, of course, working with your partner cloud solution providers. So based on your offer, that will dictate one, the quantity of SKUs, potentially how long the term of the license is. Is it month to month? Is it annual? Is it on an enterprise agreement? And that also can dictate your discount or any kind of bulk pricing that you may qualify for. So that's the offer. The offer gives you access to what we call a SKU. And the SKU, we broke out it. We have gone through so many different names with FNO, and that's why I call it FNO still. But of course, it was Dynamics AX, and then became Unified Operations, and then I think finance and operations. And then we started to break it down, and we started to sell finance separately from supply chain, separately from commerce, and so on. But I think a lot of us know that there's at least a core component across all of those things that it's the same piece of software, right? It's still just F&O core. And that is really important when we get to how things are managed in PPAC. Um, Certainly, though, there are some add-ons that you can buy, like storage and Power Platform requests. So we'll get to those in just a moment. Um, Inside of every SKU that you buy, so I'll pick on finance. You buy the finance SKU. Each finance SKU license that you can assign to a person comes with these capabilities called a service plan. And the service plan contains what it's called apps, I believe, in the Microsoft Admin Center. So it actually has the ability to log into FNO is one service plan. There's another service plan that gives you storage. There's another service plan that gives you Power Apps and so forth. And so all of these different service plans are bundled into the license. And each of those service plans gives you what we call entitlement. So not that we're all entitled, but an entitlement is something that is kind of a currency. It's like something that you can spend in the admin center. And so entitlements that are most popular that we talk about are Dataverse databases in gigabytes. There were also finance and operations database gigabytes. And then there's this thing called Power Platform requests. And so for every user that you buy, you get more of these things. And then, of course, if you're done buying user licenses, you can just go buy more storage, or you can go buy more Power Platform requests. I say all of this to say it's really important because Elastic Compute is here. So this whole idea of tiers in LCS, where you have a slow sandbox called a tier 2, and then you have a fast sandbox called a tier 5, and then there's something in between. That whole idea goes away with LCS. So in Power Platform Admin Center, you're just going to see sandbox and you're just going to see production. There's no set limit. It's all elastic. And so this all operates on your Power Platform requests. So we take all of your user licenses, both from FNO purchases, as well as other Dynamics licenses you might have, and even Copilot Studio licenses, all accrue these Power Platform requests. And that gets summed up at your tenant level. So for your whole company, you have some total, let's say it's 1 million Power Platform requests. Today, how this operates for Dataverse is that every 24 hours, we look at how many PPR your company has, and that determines the performance tier for your Dataverse organizations. It actually impacts what we call a scale group on the back end, which determines how many web nodes serves all of your traffic, both API traffic as well as user traffic. So now FNO and our infrastructure for FNO is listening to that exact same signal. So every night we recalculate how many Power Platform requests you have. Dataverse does something with that and says, okay, you get to have this much. Now FNO does something with that and says, okay, you get to have this many AOSs. And so the floor, of course, is 2 AOSs for every sandbox and prod. UDEs is excluded. We can talk more about that in a bit. But for normal UAT environments, normal production environments, the minimum is 2 AOSs, and for every 650,000 PPRs, you get another AOS across every environment. So if you qualify for one more AOS and you have 2 environments, each of those environments gets one more AOS. It's not one between the two. So it's distributed to every environment that you have now and in the future. Of course, the catch is, well, how many environments can you have? It's based on the amount of gigabytes you have available. So have to be good stewards of your data. And so that's why we have, lots of features like transactionless copy to keep sandboxes small and so on. But again, every new environment you can create has the same potential as production in terms of the number of AOSs it will have. It will scale up with no downtime. So as you're using the environment, we'll add more AOSs to it up to your maximum. And then if we detect you stopped using the environment for some reason, you just spun it up for a training, and then stopped using it, we will start to scale it down. But right now that only happens during maintenance, which is either you're deploying customizations, we're deploying FNO updates, or if there's any like dark hours, a normal maintenance routine that we do. So the scale down is a little bit slower, but the scale up is kind of on demand. And again, so you can get these Power Platform requests through user licenses, of course. You can also just buy Power Platform requests. So if you're looking to just get more compute, it's significantly cheaper to just go buy the add-ons than to buy a bunch of user licenses. The only reason you should ever buy a user license is because you have a user to assign it to. Okay. So like once you're done assigning it to users, you should be done with the user license, then go buy the cheaper thing, which is the add-on. And that's true both for storage and for Power Platform requests. So all of this is now thankfully documented on MS Learn. So I'll drop a link to that if you haven't seen it. So you don't have to memorize the slides, certainly. But we're really, really excited about that. We've gotten a lot of good feedback. Okay, I think enough slides. Let me jump into some demos, and then we'll look at roadmap. Okay, I'm going to switch to the browser. Can I get a quick check? You guys can see that, and it's not still the slides? Okay,
We can
right
see.
on. Awesome. So I'm in the Power Platform Admin Center. And so if you haven't been here before, this is the homepage. And typically, we're going to spend a lot of time in either manage, security, or licensing if you're kind of an F&O admin. So under manage, this is where you can see the bird's eye view of environments across your entire tenant. So this is for every workload, for Copilot Studio, for apps, for CRM, for F&O, you name it. And this actually includes all of the new things that we've been talking about, the new unified environments, the environments running elastic compute, as well as just the Dataverse environments linked to your F&O instances in LCS. So for example, this is an environment production linked to an F&O production I have over at LCS. And I can prove that to you because if I try and delete it, it says I can't. You can't delete this thing. Even if you want to, you actually need to go have a conversation with somebody from LCS. So indeed, those things do show up here. But this is where you can look at all of your different unified environments. I have a UDE here. When I click into the environment, this is where you're going to see some just environment level detail. There's always going to be a CRM or a Dataverse endpoint. And now these environments have an F&O endpoint as well. So kind of a front office and a back office, if you will. But it has a single environment ID. So this is all in one. It's managed as one. If I wanted to delete this thing, I certainly could if I choose to. F&O manifests under Dynamics 365 apps as an app. And so this is where you would see sales. This is where you'd see field service. So I've got a bunch of things in here. This app here represents the F&O core. It's the core ERP system. This represents the fact that you have F&O installed. And you can always click manage This is going to take you to another tab where if I have any updates available, it will it will potentially let me update. I think I actually just recently updated, so I may not have anything to show here. We'll see what it thinks. Um, but this is where you would go to update from 10.046 to 10.047, or if there's a new PQU available, and so on. So, and this experience we actually are revamping because it's a little bit old school. So we are going to have some spinners in here, a couple of different tabs that show you the different types of settings you can change, and then a better kind of sign-off experience for it. So looks like nothing to show there for updates. Let's see. Oh, and of course, when we look at all of these different environments, I have a production environment, but you'll see, funnily enough, this environment is named UAT, and that's because this environment started as a sandbox. So the whole go live process is a little bit different in Power Platform. You actually can convert a sandbox directly into prod for go live without having to copy it yet again to some other environment. So this environment started as sandbox. I converted it to prod. I can convert it back right now. I can say, hey, go ahead and make this thing a sandbox again. And I can do that if I need to get JIT access to the database to go fix something. I can do that if I need to do a point in time restore of the environment. We don't let you do that directly on a prod. You have to take a conscious action to say, no, I'm taking this out of being production. And then at that point, you lose some of the SLAs, right? Like now, if you do something like destructive on the environment, well, you did it to a sandbox at that time. So there's a little bit of service protection angle to that. Okay, and then of course, environment groups. So if you haven't seen or looked at environment groups, this is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a way to take multiple environments and put them in a group and then manage them together. We are thinking about environment groups like projects from LCS. So I've got an environment group here called Dynamics 365 North America. It's empty. I can click add. I can add multiple different environments in here if I wish, but I'm not going to do that just yet. And then on the rules tab, these are where you can apply policies to the environment. Most of these policies, I'm going to be honest, are for Copilot Studio and low code, but we are going to add more and more things here for FNO. The first Dynamics rule that we've shipped is this one called the implementation project. This actually allows you to say, hey, I do want to treat this like a project. I want to add my project manager at customer.com. I want to add my consultant at partner.com and myself. And when I click save, this is going to create a project in the fast track implementation portal. It's going to link these two things together. It's going to automatically sync all of the environments and the telemetry based assessments and all that good stuff. And it's going to send emails, welcome emails to these addresses here, so that they can log into the fast track portal and kind of get started with more of the business side of the implementation. So this kind of lets selfishly the IT person or the technical person stay here in the admin center where they live and breathe, and they can get the project managers and the consultants going on the project side of it. And we will have more and more things related to F&O here all the time. So there will be things like backup retention. There will be things like probably data archive jobs and other cleanup routines and stuff like that, just to kind of hopefully allow you to set it up once and have it apply to many environments at the same time. So that is environment groups. It does require turning your environments into a managed state. So if you see managed environments, let me click on one here and I'll say turn on, pardon. I don't have one that's not managed. I can easily show. There is a big pop-up that says like, you understand that there's a licensing implication. You need to have a Power Apps premium or some premium license. Just know that all Dynamics 365 customers are premium. So if you already have F&O, supply chain commerce, you already qualify. So you could make all of your environments managed like overnight if you wish to. So just in case you see that and get concerned about any additional costs, that's primarily for low code customers who are getting all of this goodness just with their Office 365 license. We really want them to buy a Power Apps license. But if you're already Dynamics, you're good. Okay, so I think that's primarily what I'm going to look at from environment management. There is licensing, and this is where you can dig into deeper what we talked about from the storage and the Power Platform requests and the trends over time. So I won't belabor this. I think that there's already a lot of other office hours related to storage, but if you have questions on this, don't be shy. Happy to answer them. Um, okay, next thing I want to talk about just super briefly is APIs, because as I mentioned at the beginning, one of the other hats and kind of focus areas that I have is how do I automate all of this stuff? And I think honestly, for those of you who are brand new, automating and building an agent may actually be a lot easier way to learn all of this than clicking buttons in the admin center. I might be biased because I love APIs, but we kind of flipped this whole game around. So PPAC historically has kind of been closed. There were certain tools that we shipped. There was an old connector, there's a CLI, there was an admin PowerShell module. All of those were maintained by different teams. They all had different features. If you wanted to do something end to end, you couldn't do it in one tool. And so there were these like invisible cliffs or invisible walls for customers. And so I kind of took over this space a couple of years ago and just said, hey, we're going to flip this around and say, every feature of PPAC is going to be publicly documented, and that's going to be documented on something called Power Platform API. And that's going to be our single source of truth. So once everything is on the REST API, we then take that as a bundle every single calendar month and we auto generate the tools on top of it. So we now have a C# SDK, a Python SDK. We have, of course, the Power Platform CLI, which is getting all of this baked into it as well. And we have connectors, MCP, it works in Logic Apps, it works in Copilot Studio. So it's everywhere now. And they're all exactly equal to each other. So like a feature that's in C# is also available in the connector and so on. So you really don't have to pick and choose which tool has the feature. They all do. You can choose the tool that is best for your scenario or what you're most comfortable with. And so there's this what's new or changed page, and you're going to see monthly updates roughly of all the new APIs that we're shipping. And then, of course, all the tools just get refreshed every month. And so to kind of highlight that, oh, yes, again, so we have all of these different APIs here, and they're organized into these categories called namespaces. And so you're going to see things that are cross internal team, but we functionally put them into a group. So environment management, for example, this has APIs from like 4 different engineering teams. But that part shouldn't be important. What's important is they're grouped together under something that makes sense, like environment management. Same with Dynamics. We now have the F&O, the ability to change how often you get updates, and the calendar settings for updates basically is now managed through this. So we're shipping things API first, and then those get incorporated in the tools, and then later we add them to the UI. Each one of these categories is now becoming an MCP server. So we have an environment management MCP, we have a governance MCP, we have a licensing MCP. And so all of those can be plugged into Copilot Studio or Claude or GitHub Copilot, and you can reason about them all. So what I've done here is I've created an agent in Copilot Studio called my PPAC admin agent. And I've given it some kind of lightweight instructions here. I think just basically you help me get going with Dynamics and apps at scale. I added some tools to this agent that are all based on Power Platform API. And so you'll see those available here. And so essentially what I can do is say, hey, my project manager asked me to create a new finance sandbox. Can you help me do that in United States? Let's call it Lane UG1. And so it's trained on our public documentation. So it knows that a finance environment is a Power Platform environment with Dataverse, with a finance template, with the F&O application installed. So it read all of these things. And essentially, it's going to go ahead and start creating these things for me on the fly. So I can go back to my environment list page, and I should see this new UG1 is preparing. And so within an hour, I'm going to have a new unified sandbox created. I didn't have to go buy another sandbox tier 2 on an enterprise agreement and any of that, uh, lengthy process with, finance and purchasing departments and so on. As long as you have a gigabyte available, you can just deploy new unified developer, sandbox, and production environment. So it's that simple. And I also already did this earlier. So I've got a CRP environment, a gold environment, a dev environment. I spun all of those up together at the same time just by talking to this agent. So now I can say, what did I call those? Lane U dev gold and CRP. So let's see if I can get back over to this tab. Say, can we also add lane U dev, lane U gold, lane U CRP to the Dynamics NAM environment group. Now I haven't tried this, so this is true demo moment. We'll see if it's smart enough. So it's listing the environment groups that I have. It found the environment group related to Dynamics 365 NAM, and now it's adding these environments into the group. And so if I go back, click on environment groups, click on NAM, they're all getting added right now as we speak into this implementation project. And so now all of these are starting to get synced with the fast track portal, and all of the telemetry-based assessments are just going to light up. So, I mean, talk about just time to value, being able to get all of your developer gold data migration stuff going at the beginning of a project. We all know that can take some time. Now you can just create an agent and say, hey, get after it. I'm going to go make a cup of coffee. So that is my demo. I have one other thing I want to show if I have time, which is migration. So I talked about how we are thinking about migration. And again, this is just proof of concept, something that I vibe coded to give back to my engineering team to kind of make it real. But this is supposed to look like and feel like the LCS portal. And so, normally we've got the managed environment fast tab that's at the top, and it has the version of FNO and so on. But we're going to have something new that's going to show up on top called Power Platform Migration. And so the whole idea here is we want to have some pre-flight checks. We want to make sure that if you're going to migrate an environment, we want to make sure it's going to be successful. And so if you have, for some reason, an environment that's operating way more AOSs than you have PPRs for, and you might see your environment start to get contracted. We don't want that. So you would not be a customer that we're going to let migrate right away. Usually those are customers that have gotten AOSs given to them for support reasons or through fast track or something unrelated to any kind of financial transaction that you had. So there are customers operating more AOSs than our system thinks they paid for. So we don't want them to be the first to migrate. Likewise, there are some customers who are in storage overage right now. They've used more gigabytes than the system thinks they should have. And so we don't want those folks to migrate either, because PPAC is very strict about that. So there's folks that we see are in a good place storage wise, not over compute or no compute contraction. And if we detect your tenant has already used any of the unified environments, like a unified dev or a unified sandbox, we think you're like our first wave of customers we would love to target and get your feedback on. So we'll kind of selectively light this up for different folks, but there will be a sign up form that we'll share this summer. So if you're like, hey, we just want to get involved, there'll be an easy way for you to get plugged in. So there'll be some checks. But if everything is good, then we'll let you migrate, and just type the name, edit migration, and start the migration. And it'll kind of look like this, like it goes into deploying state or migrating state. And then as soon as it's done, the idea is that the environment in LCS becomes totally read-only. So no more updating FNO, no more installing customizations, any kind of refresh. And what's going to happen is this added migration environment in LCS is now going to just be its Power Platform linked environment here. So this is that linked Dataverse environment. Obviously, it's not migrated right now, so I can show that I can't delete it because it still thinks F&O is managed by LCS. But what we're doing with the migration is we're not moving the database, we're not moving the AOSs, we're just moving the control from LCS over to Power Platform. And so it kind of collapses everything down. LCS becomes read-only. And at that point, this would become a PPAC only managed environment. And so at that point, if I, just like this one, wanted to blast it or delete it away, I could do so. So that's the kind of migration that we're thinking. We want to do it environment by environment. We're still trying to rationalize, well, what happens when you've migrated all of your sandboxes and all you have left is prod? You've now put yourself in a code freeze, right? So there's some things that we need to work through there, but just to kind of give you like the mental model, this is what it'll, most likely look like, and so on. So we are working on this. We are tunnel vision. Migration is the one thing that we're building right now. So we're hoping to have it available soon. Okay, so that was my demos. Last couple of slides, I promised, then we'll open it up. Roadmap. So there's a couple of things that we've looked at, a lot of different feedback. This one is just, we're starting to contemplate, like, could we do this? Do we want to do this? What we've seen is some customers have deployed a unified developer environment on accident, and it's irreversible right now. You can't turn a UDE into just a normal sandbox, or a USE as we call it, Unified Sandbox Environment. So we're trying to figure out, could we come up with something there? Other than that, a couple of things that we've gotten feedback on is it would be really nice to know and have some fields in the PPAC UI and in the API that tell me, is this a unified developer environment versus a sandbox versus production? How many AOSs should I have versus how many are currently running? All of those kinds of things, especially with Elastic Compute. So all of this is already engineering complete, checked in, and we're starting to roll out, I believe, next Monday. So imminently, these things will start to light up in the UI and in the API surface so that you can programmatically fetch how many AOSs can I have, what kind of underlying environment deployment type or app type is this? Is it a UDE or a USE and so on? So those things are coming soon. Otherwise, I would love to stop with the slides and give you time to ask questions. Tell me what's not clear. Tell me what you'd like to see. Tell me what you really dislike. It's all fair game. So thank you. And I'll pause and see what questions there are.
Thank you, Lane, for giving us this view of the current features which are about to be shipped out for preview. So definitely excited to see how the migration pans out. There are a lot of questions in the chat window as well. But yeah, I think we can do some live Q&A. If anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask the question, feel free to do it.
Sounds great.
Hey, Lynn. So my question is, so if a user has FNO license, does he need to really have a PPAC license?
Oh, a Power Platform Admin Center license?
Yes.
So there isn't a license for Power Platform Admin Center. So the only reason you would need an FNO license assigned is if you're actually going to be logging into the FNO application and using any of the functionality. If you are more like the IT administrator and you're just using PPAC to manage the environments and do version upgrades and stuff like that, you do not need a license assigned as long as you have one of those Entra roles assigned to you, like the Power Platform Administrator or the Dynamics 365 Administrator.
Okay, I have one more question. Right now, we're still using LCS for some of the customers, and for some, it's on PPAC. So when do we see that complete migration, or is there a roadmap? When do we see that there is no more LCS or?
Yeah, great question. So LCS is already frozen. So any new customers who try to visit LCS today, it won't let them complete the login. There's a big pop-up that happens and says Power Platform Admin Center is here. Go over to Power Platform Admin Center. Now, there are some exceptions to that though. So if you are a new commerce customer, commerce is not yet ready. They're not GA in PPAC. So if you're a new commerce customer, or if you're an AX 2012 upgrade moving to the cloud, or if you're already in LCS on one tenant, but you got acquired by another company, you need to migrate your tenant to a different tenant. So there are some ways that you can still get an LCS project if you absolutely need to. We have a form that you fill out. We review those every single day, and we can let people into LCS if it's an emergency. So, but for the most part, every new customer is going to PPAC. And then, yeah, the migration, I showed the proof of concept. We need to build it. And then for a while, it's going to be opt-in. We just want people to kick the tires, give us feedback, let us know if it works well. And then eventually we may start like a 12-month countdown to move everybody from there.
Okay. So one more question. So when I can see that you have showed the option to deploy or release an environment using copilots in this, right?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, but now when we are trying with a manual way of deploying an environment, we are still getting an error. So how does that going to change with Copilot?
So I guess it depends what error you're getting and how. But if you have any of the details or if you have a support ticket, I'm happy to take a look. Long story short, since let me see if I can get out the slide. Basically, the easiest way to create a new environment with FNO is going to be using what we call a template. So you just choose sandbox or production, you choose your region, you give the environment a name. You must always say Dataverse, that's a prerequisite. And then on the next page, there's this enable dynamics. This you can't even say yes to this if the system does not detect any Dynamics licenses in your tenant. But as long as you've already purchased the license, you can turn this on.
Okay.
And if you leave it blank, you're just going to get a base Dynamics environment for Dataverse. It's not going to have FNO. But in this list, you should see an option here based on the licenses your tenant has. So if you have supply chain or commerce or projobs, in my case, I have finance. So I would pick finance, and then you just hit save. That's the easiest way. And if that's giving you an error, definitely let me know. But again, like that's the same as through the API, through the Copilot, like it's all the same. If you're getting an error on installing the FNO app, there is some trickiness to it. There's a couple of steps you have to really follow them in a specific order. But I'd be happy to take a look and see if we can help you.
Sure. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Yeah, great questions.
Go ahead, Dio.
Thanks,
Venkat.
Yeah.
Hi, Lane. Thanks for the presentation. Really good. I had a question with regards to Power Platform requests and the entitlements. So right now, the documentation says that it's 5,000 PPRs per license. Based on the different types of license, is there any differentiation? Like if I had a finance license and a team member license, would each of it contribute 5K PPRs? Because
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it's primarily the base licenses that give you the entitlement. It would be similar to all of this to say, as my legal team has advised me, everything is subject to the licensing guide. So I'll just say that because the licensing guide changes. But the last time I looked, it was based on the same user licenses that give you gigabytes. So I think like the attached licenses don't give you gigabytes. The team member, I don't think gives you gigabytes. But if it does give you storage in some capacity, then I think there is some level of PPR that comes with it. So, but yeah, I'd have to defer to the exact amounts. I don't have it in front of me, but it's not every single license, unfortunately. But even things like Copilot Studio, they may give you some as well. So it kind of balances it.
Sorry, you got mute.
Just a follow-up question.
So sorry, I see. Hopefully I'm off.
No.
Okay, I keep getting muted. Let's try it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep getting
Something
muted.
is mute.
Okay, with the customers that might have more AOSs right now than what they would be on PPAC, how would that converge? Sorry, was my question didn't make it through?
I think I heard about maybe every fourth word,
sorry.
unfortunately, but
So
I think maybe we've got that figured out. So, do you mind?
So with customers right now that might have like 10 AOSs on their prod. In PPAC, when we do that calculation, it says they'll only have 4. How would that conversion look like when we are doing that migration? Because obviously the grant of the system would go lower. How?
Not sure if it's just with me, but can't hear.
Yeah, and I just got
Same,
kicked out of
yeah.
the session, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
So it's maybe I mentioned the license.
Yeah. Not sure what's happening. Yeah.
Chat.
Yeah. So there are some questions in the chat window. Maybe we can take that, Lane, if you're okay. Sure, what's happening here? Can you hear me, Lane?
Hey, folks, I'm back. We'll see how long it lets me stay.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I don't know what's happening. Yeah, I'll also rejoin. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, put things in the chat, and I would love to follow up on those.
Seems like Teams is playing games.
Is there a Copilot deployed here?
I don't know just what's happening. Yeah. Maybe someone tested an API for Teams. Oh dear.
That's what I was sending a message actually.
Yeah, if this is a game on who's more stubborn, Teams or me, I'm hoping I win. So, yeah, some more questions about PPR. Yeah, so it has no bearing on LCS, right? So if you have a tier 5, right, and you have, let's say, 20 users and a tier 5, nothing for nothing, as you migrate, that tier 5 is going to get downgraded to something closer to like a tier 2. And so what we're looking to do with customers who have these tier add-on purchases is we want to find a conversion factor so that that purchase that you made on the kind of the old business model has some meaning in the future with PPAC when you migrate that environment. So there's still a little bit of work for us to do there as well. And it's primarily a difference of compute. The storage is the storage, so that's not too much of a factor. But we did have some aspirations to kind of ship like an Azure calculator type thing for PPR because I know it's confusing. At one point, we had like an Excel spreadsheet that we were circulating, but our licensing and CELA folks have just asked that we document the technical functionality on MS Learn and that the licensing guide then is the source of truth. So, that's kind of where my hands are tied a little bit. But any questions you have, or if you're like, hey, if we have this many users and what would this look like? send those questions my way, and we'll do our best to make it as clear as we can.
Cool. Thanks, Lane. We can take some questions from the chat window. So there is question from Sahil. Will it reduce environmental cost migrating to PPAC?
I think cost is subjective, unfortunately. I think if you've purchased a lot of add-ons and you're good on PPR, then yeah, I mean, honestly, I think some customers are going to save a lot on not needing to pay for those tier 2, 3, 4, and 5s, right? Tier 2, I think, is 1,300 a month US dollars, and tier 5 goes all the way up to $12,000 a month, I think. So you don't have to pay for that anymore, right? Now, some customers are locked into that on an enterprise agreement, so it goes back to that conversion factor. From a time perspective, I mean, I'm spinning up environments every day doing deployments. Everything is supported using service principals and managed identities. So you don't have to have a user with MFA turned off to click the button in LCS or try and use the LCS APIs. You can set up proper end-to-end automated deployments from dev to test to prod, just full stop using Azure DevOps. So I think from the hands-free automation perspective, having people that understand PPAC and it works across all workloads from Copilot to Dynamics, I think there is a lot of cost benefit there for sure. I think the customers who are going to be in the hardest spot right now are the ones with just huge data volumes. So we are working on that to see if we can come up with an actual archive system that works across the board. There's also, we're seeing a lot of customers with indexes that are using more storage than the actual data in the tables. So we're coming out with some cleanup routines for that too. Is just so, the smaller we can keep your environments, then the more gigabytes you have to play with. So, but hopefully that helped kind of share my perspective.
Thanks, Lane. Then we have one question from Dennis, and Dennis recently got a Microsoft MVP award. So Dennis, congratulations for that. So Dennis has a question. If you want to unmute Dennis, feel free. But his question is, can we create a copy LCS tier 2 to UDE with code, data, and Dataverse dual write? How complex is the task, and what happens to dual write after the copy? Any guides for this that we can share with the client? Thank you.
Yeah, great question. I think probably my fuzziness there is going to be on the dual write aspect, so I can follow up on exactly any impacts there. I think there's been some gap on reinitializing the maps or something like that, so I may need to follow up there if that's mostly where your concern is. But otherwise, yeah, copying from tier 2 to UDE, we copy the full F&O compute, the Dataverse compute, the databases on both sides, and we just basically package it into one system. So yeah, that should work, absolutely.
Yeah, the most question we have actually database administrator, and he's working 3 weeks for now for this task, and he said like a lot of issues, but we require just full copy with the data, like dual write enabled. Yeah, so.
Okay, yeah, let me know if you have a support ticket or if you just want to send an email thread over my way. More than happy to take a look. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Dennis. Then we have Devinder. He has some feature requests. Devinder, do you want to unmute and talk about it?
Hi, Lane. Thanks so much for the session. It's kind of a feature request. So right now, the environment copy is subjected to like whenever you're copying one environment to another environment, you are copying basically data plus code. You can make it transactionless, but you can't get away with the code. So is there any flexibility coming into like future releases where you can have just data being copied, not only for FNO, but for C as well? Right now, there is no feature where you can just copy data from one C environment to another. Right? So these kind of flexibility. Is there any?
Yeah, it's a great question. I get this for what it's worth from a lot of LCS background, like FNO background, because we're used to just databases moving around and not the code, right? And that's why we have a whole DB sync engine that snaps into whatever code base you are running, drops schema, adds missing schema, that kind of thing. Dataverse just doesn't have anything like that. And for what it's worth, the Dataverse software is stored in the database. So when you move the database, the solution tables, we could in theory truncate them, but who knows what that would break. So I don't think this is on the roadmap anytime soon. Yeah, I think for now, the baseline is always the code, and then the question is how much data do you want? On the data side, we have transaction lists for FNO, which definitely saves you a lot of gigabytes on the FNO side. We're missing the metadata we need to do transaction lists on Dataverse tables. I'm working with the Dataverse schema team to see if we can get similar metadata added in the spirit of One Dynamics, so that we can truncate on both sides to actually get you, especially with dual write involved.
Yeah.
You may want to clear out both sides. And then I think one other ask kind of in this general problem space is, well, I don't want transaction lists. I would actually really like the last 30 days of transactions to be retained. So we are actually looking into this. I previously had one engineering team tell me it's just not possible. And then I had another engineering team tell me they think it might be possible. So we're going to look into it. If it is possible, I would love it because I know a lot of people would like that. So we're going to look into it. I think the main thing from my perspective is it can't be such a long running operation that it goes over 24 hours or 8 hours or something like that. So some of these things may need to be asynchronous where the copy completes from the PPAC perspective, but maybe some data loading or data shrinkage is happening async. But yeah, so no data only in the roadmap as far as I know.
Right. Thanks. Another one on that one, because I'm working on that automation part. So do we have anything where through APIs, we can just access the FNO database in PPAC? Because in LCS, we don't have such capability.
Yeah, great question. So you can get read and write access to the UDE database using the Visual Studio tools today. So when you connect to the system, obviously the environment's in the cloud and you can get the credentials. We do have a V team right now working on more CLI agentic development for FNO. And so part of that is basically automating everything from Visual Studio, including the SQL JIT aspect. So you could have, GitHub Copilot or Claude or what have you, basically orchestrate all of that for you if necessary.
Okay. The final question is on the NuGet packages. So is there any plan for having all those asset library resources into PPAC or maybe a limited set of that into PPAC like VHDs or NuGet packages? And maybe if we can get a way of downloading the NuGet packages and uploading onto DevOps and have maybe a global repository where you can fetch it. So probably not sure if you can share any plan around that.
Is this coming 100%? Do I have a date? No. But I had a meeting on it as recent as this morning. The goal, at least as it stands right now, subject to change, of course, is that we want to put this in PAC CLI. And so you'd be able to actually get a new version of the NuGet using a command in PAC CLI. And PAC CLI is actually how we run all of the Power Platform build and release tasks in DevOps. So you'd actually just be able to have a command that pulls down the latest application NuGet or platform NuGet or whatever you need. And you'd be able to specify versions. So the team's kind of looking into all of that. And it kind of goes into that same work stream of how can we just have a CLI to do all development. So yeah, there's definitely some effort going into that space right now.
Thanks, Lane.
Yeah, great questions.
I see we have two hands from Faisal and Venkat. Just being mindful of time, Lane, are you okay to stay for another 10 minutes and we can see how much we cover and then we can send you the questions which are unanswered? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can probably do another 5 minutes.
Awesome. Okay.
But yeah, sounds great, guys.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do that. Go ahead, Faisal.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question on what Devinder was asking about copying the configuration or the transaction data. So is there a roadmap where we can only copy a master data when we are copying environment from one to another rather than the transaction less? So there is a separate feedback on the transaction less toggle because it's hidden somewhere. Most of the time we forgot to untoggle it, and it's when it copy over, it always a transaction less. So might be some kind of a notification kind of a scenario there. And if we just want to copy a baseline configuration, says let's say if we have a ISP solution and we have a one environment where we already have a configured our baseline configurations, we don't want to copy it again and again. We have a one master data environment, and later on customer wants to deploy a further environments there. We always say, okay guys, rather than you might remember we back in the days we used to have a patches of our demo data packages there. We always provide with the ISP solutions. If you want to go with the ISP, deploy this data package separately. Rather than this one, we always have this data set in one go and deploy as a baseline. So is there a feature coming or a roadmap, any discussions happening from the ISP perspective?
Great questions. I think there were many in there, so I'm going to try and recall them all. I think one was around the transaction list toggle. We switched that to be the default, I want to say like 6 months ago-ish, sometime in 2025. And the whole goal with transaction list copy, for what it's worth, that feature was built with one purpose in mind, which is to save customers money. That's it. So, what better way to make an environment smaller but still be usable is to get rid of all the transactions.
Yeah,
So that's kind of
this
where
option is good, but it's very hidden. Most of the time we always forget to toggle it on, maybe toggle it off.
toggle
Yes,
it off.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, and then the intention was okay just to copy everything, and then we realize, oh sorry, I forgot to untoggle or toggle that option. So maybe a kind of a
Yeah.
notification, guys. Are you sure you really want to copy? You don't want to copy any transaction less anything. So just a notification will help an end user or any business user, whoever is doing this.
Yeah, it makes sense. Another thing that I think can help too is automation around the copy, because then you can, of course, specify all the parameters the way that you want.
Yeah.
From a master data only movement between environments, I don't anticipate that feature at the moment. So the way that the transaction works, it's not that we're copying over everything but transactions, but it's a full copy, and then we run a bunch of truncate scripts. So we have some physics. We need to make sure that all of these lifecycle operations happen within a couple of hours. It kind of reminds me of that tool that we had, I think in the 2012 days, called the test data transfer tool, or the
That's right.
TDTT.
Yep.
It's just like I want to take like a core set of like 400 tables, and I want to move them from this environment to this environment. I will say we are pushing really hard for write access, SQL write access in Sandbox. So you could get JIT in source and target and read and then write, potentially. And you could potentially have an agent or, doing some of that for you. So that might be a nice interim. Otherwise, of course, there's the usual data management answer, DIXF and stuff, but I know that's less than ideal. So yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Faisal. Let's take the last question from Venkat. Appreciate, Lane, you staying longer on the call.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
One last question. So is it really going to change if it is an on-prem implementation for an ISV, which we are trying to deploy? Does the same LCS is going to be from here, and which needs to go or the same way it is done? Because I know a lot of Copilot features were not there in the on-prem solutions right now, which we are trying to give it through MCP.
Yeah, great question. So right now, there's no plan for on-prem to be integrated with PPAC. Even CRM Dataverse on-prem does not operate through PPAC either. So there is a way in which you can go through a license check, and then you can download the software, kind of like MSDN, but not exactly. And then you get, I think it's a PowerShell module. We may actually embed it in PAC CLI, but some kind of scripts that you can run to download new versions of FNO and orchestrate all of the updates on-prem without any cloud dependency other than the download itself. So no LCS, no PPAC, you're fully on-prem. one of the challenges with F&O on-prem today is if LCS has an outage, you have an on-prem outage. And that was probably the whole point of being on-prem, was you didn't want a cloud dependency. So we're going to try and make that right and just provide scripts and automation capabilities for you to do everything on-prem at whatever time of day that you'd like.
So it's already in the roadmap, or?
It's on the roadmap. We're having discussions about it now. So there's nothing available today to play with. But that's one of the things that we have to make available in GA before we could turn LCS off, for example. So
Thank you.
Yeah. I know there's probably a lot of questions I didn't get to, not meaning to skip over anything. So, feel free to copy and paste this chat session over my way, and I'll just try and get answers back to y'all.
Yes, Lynn, that's the plan. So I will share and compile these questions and we can share it back with the people. But really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, and the session was really informative and it gave us a view, what's coming ahead. And also it's not just, one simple thing, it's a big shift happening. So yeah, a lot of homework for us to do. All right. Thanks everyone. Stay tuned. We will post the session on our YouTube channel and also on LinkedIn. And have a great day.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, Lane.
So long.
Thanks, Rashid.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Lane. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.